What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from MyMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're going to talk about something very bad is going to happen, or has already happened, because at the end of episode 3, if y'all are caught up, because you're on episode 4 now, you might have noticed Rachel just got taken. And so we start off the top of episode 4 with calls to Liam Neeson saying we need his particular set of skills. And no, we don't. Actually, it turns out we're going to do a flashback to put everything into context. And that's kind of what this is. This gives a little bit of context in case you're wondering, like, what is this series going to do? Because it went for a while with, like, the unease and the dread, which the first 2 episodes sold really well. And then once we got into it, it started kind of backing off of it. It's like, no, the family's not crazy. They're just going through this. And so now we have to explain Rachel's backstory. So it turns out maybe the dread is coming from Rachel's side of the family. So her dad's still alive. Surprise! He got invited to the wedding. And so it was her dad that kidnapped her and was stalking around the house. So they cut to a cabin that happens to be near this one, which is freaky when you think about it. When you think about all of the life choices that Rachel could have made in her life, the fact that she is this close to where her mother gave birth to her and, like, didn't even know it. So they're within walking distance of the house. I know this because Jonah, what was his name? Jude's dad, the doctor, is going to end up walking there at the end of the episode. So, yeah. So there's a cabin. It's not too far from this house that they're at. This is where I started to dislike the show, by the way. I was like, oh no, it's not making sense. Oh shit. um, so you see the flashback episode with her mom and dad, and they stop off in creepy ice cream guy, which she didn't even really know about until she was giving context from Nikki. Gives, I don't sell ice cream, I sell custard. And her mom's creeped out by it and wants to leave. And so she's pregnant at the time they're supposed to be getting married. And then they head up to this cabin, this secluded cabin in the woods. It has like an old school TV VCR situation going on. And she just kind of dies. I don't really know how else to describe it. I mean, it's not really, she just kind of starts bleeding heavily out of her eyes and her nose, and it ends up killing her. Like, she just kind of drops to the ground, and her dad, realizing that she's died, performs a C-section and gets the baby out, which the baby is Rachel. So Rachel watches this because he filmed it, because he was filming their whole thing. So she's watching this whole thing on a flashback type situation of these, wedding videos that her dad ever showed her. And so he's like, this is why you can't marry, because he explains that there's a curse that her mom had told her that this thing was going to happen. She had to make sure she was marrying her soulmate. Obviously, dad wasn't her soulmate. So she's worried. He's worried that her daughter's gonna make the same mistake, and then she's just gonna die from having married Nikki. So, um, so she kind of gets up. She does not like her dad. She's like, I didn't invite you. Who invited you? Then that's when Jonah, or whatever his name is, it's not Jude, because Jude's the kid. But Jude got up in the middle of the night and noticed that Rachel was missing, which is weird that he would just go in and check on her. But whatever. Goes back and tells his dad, like, oh, Rachel's missing. The whatever man that they made up in this thing got her. So it turns out that that story comes from the dad was a little kid. Jude's dad, Nikki's brother, was a little kid and trotted up to the cabin and broke in years ago and was like under the bed when they were on the bed and this started happening. So he was there for, and from his perspective as a little kid, under the bed, he saw Rachel's mom like drop to the ground. She was bleeding all over the place. She like looked at him and said something, which I still couldn't distinguish. Really, not like it's like I am like that kind of like dying whispering. So, and then he sees her die, and this guy comes and cuts open the stomach, and it looks to him, because remember the story involved like gutting you and pulling out your intestines. Um, but I mean, it was the dad pulling the baby out, so it's everything that's taken out of context. So this whole story is fake. This whole thing, anyway. And that's why they were worried about the drop of blood, is because they were like, oh no, that means the man's coming for him, because this all started with her, the bleeding from mom. So Rachel decides to leave all the crazy people, and she drives to this, to the place that she was before, and goes and yells at this guy who was at her parents' wedding that she caught from a video that she saw earlier. It was the guy who she stabbed in the hand, who we saw for like a hot second. Um, so she yells at him, and then he's like, "Don't you owe me a apology?" You know, uh, she's like, "For what?" And then so he ends up stabbing her in the leg with a fork, so that they're even, which is kind of funny. But she's questioning him about this, and he tells her this whole story about like a curse, and it was like his family's curse, and then it was his turn, and he was the one who was supposed to, but it affects the women, like it affects the, so like if he was the one who got married, like he has to, if he doesn't get married to soulmate by 5 p.m. that day, he dies or something like that. So then what ends up happening is he leaves his bride to be at the altar and doesn't get married, and I guess says it's not the soulmate. So the curse passed on to her, and then she married someone else, and then it like killed that, but then like went down through their kids, like generationally through that generation, supposedly. I was trying to figure this. I was like, if people die that quickly, is everybody getting married when they're pregnant in this curse thing, in this curse train? Because otherwise this thing should have ended pretty quickly. I had a lot of questions through the math that they were talking about. He also like made himself sound like he was like Moses, like he's just some sort of like Abraham, like he'd been around for hundreds of years through this generational thing. He's like, so your great 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 grand, like, how would you know this stuff? Are you eternal? Are you Lazarus? Like, what is happening here? So, and it's not the kind of, those aren't the kind of questions that Rachel asks too. So we just, I don't know. Truly do not know. Like at this point, the series has opened a lot of doors, asked a lot of questions, and then just walked away from them. And not given the answers or closed the doors. So episode 4 got kind of dumb and kind of confusing, and I didn't like it. And it started degrading the show. Whoever's directing this did great work in the first 2 episodes. The 3rd episode is fine. Episode 4 is where it's just like, oh, okay. So now we're gonna start tying things in together that don't make sense. So Rachel happens to just be at the cabin that's like a stone's throw from where Nikki's family is, and she doesn't find this to be weird at all. And she, like, this is where she was born, and her mom and dad met this guy who she stabbed earlier in the hand with a fork. It's like the probability of accidentally doing this stuff, of the serendipitousness of it all. Anywho, not a fan, not a fan of this episode. So we'll see what happens in the next episode, though. But I have a feeling that something very bad is going to happen. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.